Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jasmine. So today I have got another speed build for you, and it's a bit of a beast, this one, because it's an entire medieval village, and I said I was going to do it in two videos. The original plan was to do it as an interior and then an exterior video, but I finished it and I thought, well, I may as well just turn it into one big video, and then you guys can see everything that I've done in one place and there's no sort of confusion. So this one was an absolute massive task. It took me absolutely ages. I recorded it over a period of days, and there were so many new things that I had to work out how to do, from getting this bridge that you can see me making to be functional. I created a watermill using the tool mod for the first time, and then I used a whole load of debug objects that I'd never used before because I ended up making a medieval bakery and blacksmith, and those demanded a lot of debug items in order to get them to look sort of even relatively realistic. So I'm really excited about everything that I've got to show you in this video. It was really fun to learn new things, and yeah, I hope you do like it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. But the first thing that I struggled with was that bridge. Like I mentioned, I actually started creating the river that you can see with the fountain tool, which I very much advise against if you want to do anything like I have just done, because I then wasn't able to lower the flooring low enough that I used to create that bridge under the debug objects. That bridge is actually two debug bridges put together. So yeah, what I did was I had to redo it using the pool tool instead of the fountain tool, and it took me absolutely ages to do that. So I cut out a whole load of footage. You'll see like a load of footage has been edited out of this, and then you can see I've already placed in the video at this point loads of sort of greenery and foliage around the river, but I've cut that out because I then go back and use a load of debug vegetation instead. So I think the debug vegetation, it looks less artificial in terms of its colours, and I was using some of those grass objects around the river like I mentioned, but just in combination with some of the different objects, they just looked really out of place and artificial like I said. So I ended up just switching out all of the objects to completely different grass and reeds and plants that would look like you would actually see in a river. So you'll see me now do that, and I think it looks a lot more natural, and I'm really impressed with how it looked compared to some of my other builds that I've done previously. So I really rarely use debug vegetation and plants. I don't think I have done it before, just purely because I'm too lazy to actually scroll through the catalogue because it's not organised very well. Obviously the debug catalogue is just completely random, so I haven't like before taken the time to go through and look to see what vegetation objects that they actually have in the catalogue. But I did that this time, and yeah, they have some really nice objects, so I'm definitely going to use these again. It just looks so much higher quality than the objects that we get in the actual games catalogue, which is a bit concerning that that's the way around that it is, but you know, that's just how it goes. I really hope that one day they will organise a debug catalogue, because that will just be a complete game changer for me. That would make my life so much easier. But you can see here that I have created like a little pond area ready for the watermill next to the bridge, and then I've got a little well. But you can see that I've already sort of edited a load of footage out. I basically didn't want this whole video to be just me placing the same plants over and over again and the same rocks. So I hope you don't mind that I have only included some of that footage and it's not too confusing for you. I'm not sure if the order is spot on, because like I said, I do go back and change a few things, so it looks like I've done something before I actually have, if that makes sense. Hopefully that's okay and you don't get confused by that. But yeah, so the things I've actually got within this medieval village are a tavern. That's the building nearest to the bridge as you are on the path that sort of enters the village. There's a tavern, and it's got a barn there as if they had animals, you know, like horses and things like that, with a little paddock outside the front. Next to that, as soon as you cross over the bridge, that is where the watermill is, just near the bend in the river. And for that I downloaded the tool mod and created the mill itself out of these shelves, and that was pretty tedious. That was very difficult, I must say. I learned how to use the tool mod for the very first time in order to do it, and I hope you like it. I don't know how well you think I managed to achieve this. I probably could have done a better job if I had practiced before diving straight into making this, but you know, I think it turned out okay. So maybe I'll end up doing another build with the tool mod, because this build was inspired by a poll I did on Twitter where I asked you you guys what you would prefer me to make out of a medieval cottage, I think it was, a watermill, and then an autumn stables. And I think at some point, maybe in, you know, a bit further into the future, now that I've already done one watermill, I will probably end up doing that again at some point and do it properly. But I definitely want to do a stables build, because I just watched a film recently called Autumn Stables. Actually, it's pretty cheesy, but it was from the Hallmark channel, which I've only just discovered, and I am a complete sucker for romantic comedies and just anything cozy and cheesy, and that film has cute horses and autumn vibes, which is my favourite time of the year. I absolutely love autumn, and it's just so wholesome. So yeah, it's definitely enjoying watching the Hallmark channel. But yeah, so I definitely want to do a stables build at some point in the future. Hopefully it won't be too long until I can do that. You can see here that I'm super struggling with the tool mod. I cut out a whole load of footage already that you haven't seen. I think I was really struggling with moving the shelves like along the grid. Like you have to use an X axis and a Y axis, and they kept going. I think it's because what I was building was slightly on a diagonal, or it was off axis a little bit, so it was really difficult for me to be able to work out where I wanted things to be in terms of the X and Y axis, like, because I didn't know how it worked until I had already placed the building down. And then at this stage you can see that I realised that I was making my job a lot harder for myself, because I was trying to place the shelves next to the building and they kept snapping onto the building and then changing their rotation that I had already added using the tool mod. So I at this stage realised that I could temporarily move the building, and that wouldn't happen, but I was working on it for a long time until I realised that, so that's very annoying. But you know, it turned out okay in the end. It's a bit chunky, it's a bit clunky as well, but to be honest with you, that was the best that I could do. So you will see that I actually delete that giant round orange object. It's just there for me to sort of get an idea of what shape the mill would actually end up being and what size it would end up being, just as a bit of a guide. So then I end up turning that watermill into a bakery, because I figured that would make sense in terms of a medieval build. I feel like, you know, flour is somehow related to mills. Am I being an idiot? Am I having a really blonde moment? I do that occasionally, so sorry if I am, but that's what I've turned it into anyway. I've turned it into a medieval bakery. So you can see that I have got a fire. Like, I've done this in quite a lot of the builds. It's just an archway from Jungle Adventure that looks like a stone archway basically, and just to replicate the look and feel of medieval fireplaces or like cooking areas. And what I've done is then found these paving stone objects from Debug and then raised them up to create a stone shelf, and then on top of that I place Debug bread, and this was like the only bread object that I could find in the whole game. So I just placed it everywhere basically in this build, and then I create a little baking table of this side. So this is obviously where the bakers bake things and create the bread, and on the other side there's a load of tables with debug objects. Like, I always look on the gallery for things like high quality plants, and I've put them elsewhere in this build as well, like in the crop fields. I've placed a load of plants that I've just found from the gallery, but you can find this the same in terms of pre-made cakes. I've just placed a load of cakes from the gallery on top of the tables as if they've got things out for sale, and then I've got those debug baskets and I just put some bread in there as well. So I quite liked this. I thought it was a cute idea, and I thought of it quite late on as well. It didn't immediately occur to me that this is what the watermill was going to be for, but I think it is cute. And then what else do I put in the village? I think we've got a church, so that is on top of the hill that you saw me create earlier, and then I've got like a little marketplace with a few market stalls, and there is a candle stall, there's also a clothes stall, and then I think there's like a little plant stall as well. So I think I do that as one of the last things that I create. But then next to that I actually end up creating a blacksmith, so that was also pretty tricky to make. And then there's several village houses and a bookstore, I think, and one of the houses is like a little farmhouse, but you'll see them in a minute. So now I'm moving on to making the village tavern. So we've got loads and loads of barrels as if it's all medieval medieval alcoholic beverages. I don't know, what would they drink, like rum or beer or something, I don't know. But yeah, so filled with wood, filled with these barrels and these, I think they're cats and dogs items, so those barrels that are shelves filled with bottles on them. I figured that was pretty fitting. And then a lot of the bar items are from Discover University, and I was a bit hesitant to use them actually because I wasn't sure if they were actually realistic as medieval items. So I don't know, it was quite hard to get like an actual functioning bar. I don't actually know what a medieval bar would look like. I will mention now that I am an art history student, but my knowledge of different time periods outside of my speciality is, you know, pretty shameful. So sorry if I make some really embarrassing history mistakes here. But yeah, in terms of toilets throughout the whole build, I've basically sacrificed functionality a little bit because it's not a residential build. I've put it as a generic build. Yeah, I figured like there wouldn't be indoor plumbing in a medieval building, would there? So I've not got counters, and a lot of the builds, what I've just done instead is use the off-the-grid fridge object and then one of the most rustic looking sinks, because I figured that would be important. And you could probably add in a counter, but I've just got a load of tabletops in most of the builds because I think that would look more realistic. But yeah, there's just no medieval like countertops that would be appropriate, so sorry about that. I think it's just the nature of The Sims 4. We've not actually got a medieval pack yet, so I don't know if we ever will. But yeah, so I did my best. And then in terms of the toilets, I was going to mention in the houses, I think I make like an outhouse toilet for one of them. I don't think I give a toilet to the other one, so they have to use the same outhouse too. And then in the tavern, I did use an indoor toilet, but it's like that debug one, that like the low quality crafted toilet that you can do on the crafting station, because I felt like that looks the most medieval. But I think I then just put like a bucket of water next to the toilet so that it looked like you had to manually flush it yourself basically, which, you know, is kind of gross but kind of funny as well, so I hope you appreciate that. And then yeah, so now I'm going on to making the two little houses within the village. So I've got one of them which I figured would, because it's connected to this plot of land that people are obviously growing crops on, I figured it would be like a little farmer's house. And so they've got a little stall outside their house where they've got like a little market stall where they sell their vegetables. So there's some pumpkin objects there and some little baskets that you could put, I don't know, maybe vegetables in or some seed packets. Like I said, they've got a massive field beside their house where they grow all their crops. And I didn't actually notice while I was making this that I didn't put a roof on the outhouse, and that's how it is on the gallery, so I'm really sorry about that. And I think the only other mistake that I found was that I left an item, I think it was like the dangling pots and pans, was just randomly placed in the blacksmith. So feel free to go in and delete that if you download it from the gallery, but this is currently on the gallery if you're interested in downloading it, so please feel free to go ahead and do that if you're interested. My gallery ID is down below in the description. There's no CC but a load of debug objects, and I very much recommend you use the move objects on cheat if you do want to download it. So yeah, you can see here that it, like I said, a very minimalistic looking medieval room and kitchen. There's no like oven, there's a cauldron, and it's not supposed to be magical, but you can make mac and cheese in cauldrons, and I figured that it looked like some sort of medieval pot over a cooker. Then there is like a fake fireplace that comes with a get to work in that sort of arched fireplace that you can see. I did a similar thing in the bakery. So yeah, I don't think that's functional though, that fireplace. It just looks like someone's cooking a pot over an open fire. So I thought it, you know, would suit the build, but then you've obviously got the cauldron for making things. And I thought that these candle, you know, lights on the ceiling were actually functional on using the off the grid trait, but they actually are not functional using that trait, which is a real shame because that doesn't make much sense. Surely they should work because they're just candles. But I don't know, maybe that's just an oversight of the Sims team. Maybe we'll get it eventually, but I thought they'd done the update to make things like that make more sense. Who knows? Let me know if you know down below why that was happening. And then I create another house next door door to the farmer's house. And this is just a really, really simple, tiny little cottage. And I separated these rooms using these curtains and some pillars. And I basically just had in mind that it was a very small family. So there's a couple that lives here with their little baby. So they've got, I think it's a Realm of Magic crib in there. And then they've just got like a little kitchen and living area that's just in one big space. So they haven't got much, but they've got enough to get by. That, you know, they're living in medieval times, so can't really complain too much. And then you'll see me move on to creating the Blacksmith, which is the building in the middle next to the pond or the river at the front of the build. And yeah, so this one was really interesting. I googled a lot of pictures of what medieval blacksmiths interiors look like, and quite a few of them had this sort of stone square fireplace that I've tried to recreate using half walls and these, like a couple of outdoor fire pit objects. And then you can see that I'm then raising up these debug stone squares or columns. And yeah, I just put 4 of them together to sort of replicate, I don't know what the function of that stone area above the fireplace is. I don't know whether it's to hang things off of, or whether, you know, has something to do with containing the fire in some way, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, that's what it looked like in the pictures, so I just did my best to replicate it. And I was running out of relevant objects to furnish this room with, so I found as many swords and stuff as I possibly could, but there wasn't much like hanging objects or metal objects other than swords. So I put a load of pots and pans hanging down from this sort of stone square area. So I hope that that's not weird. I don't really know what the function of a blacksmith would be, other than in the context of creating armor and swords and maybe like horseshoes. So I also, you know, speaking of horses, I also placed a paddock and stables next to the blacksmiths, because I figured maybe that made sense, because in my mind they're connected to like knights and horses and horseshoes and armor for knights and things like that. So I don't know, maybe that's just a load of nonsense and I'm an idiot, but that kind of made sense to me. And then I also added some suits of armor and some swords, like I said, but also the crafting table, because I figured that had some tools on it and it kind of looked like it fit in, even if, you know, crafting wood and metal are completely different skills. But your blacksmiths can be handy and get the handiness level up in this building, so at least there's that. And then yeah, I added, like I said, loads of pots and pans, and just found some random tools from debug as well. So I managed to get like hammers and stuff like that and just sort of put them around the build. And then you'll see me moving on to the little marketplace outside, where I create, like I said, a candle stall, clothes stall, and then a little area for people to sell their plants. And I think I've already gone through the church. I was talking about something else when I was doing that, but there's a church on top of the hill. And then the last building that I make is this little bookstore next to the church, sort of behind the Watermill area. And I think it's a really cute area. I've just put like a load of bookshelves, as you would expect, and it's got its own section for growing plants in it as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole build. That felt like I rushed through a whole load in this video in such a short space of time. So if you have any questions down below at any of my process, or, you know, things that you want to know more about, then please feel free to comment and I'll happily answer any questions that you have. I hope you liked it. A few people asked for this in particular. I was originally going to split up a couple of builds, but some people wanted a whole village, so I did get a bit excited and I went to town and I really enjoyed it, so I hope you like it too. If you liked the video, please like, comment and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye you guys.